Welcome into another edition of The Session with Londa and David. My name is David Austin.
I'm Londa Sherwood Austin. Welcome back.
I'm super excited to be here today, and I know I start the show saying that each and every week.
In case you didn't know, he's super excited.
Look how pretty you are today.
Thanks.
This shirt, dress, smocky thing you got cooking, I love it.
Thank you.
You look like kind of a flower child.
Yeah, it's a little hippy-dippy today.
I just think all you need is flowers in your hair.
Yeah.
It's so pretty.
Yeah.
Okay, the session with Londa. The session with Londa and David is a business program where we talk about the three things we're most interested in. And what are those, Londa?
Yeah, we often land on restaurants, retail sales, and real estate, our bread and butter.
And that's because that's where we got our start in the world. We worked in restaurants.
We both grew up in restaurants.
Absolutely. We've worked in retail. And now we're heavily entrenched in real estate.
And I have professionally coached and mentored in each of those arenas as well.
Absolutely. And the only thing we don't talk about on this program is radio broadcasting, which we've now both done. I did it for my first career, and you did it for a short time when we had a show in South Louisiana.
Yes.
That's so fun. This is a fun episode, and I'm excited about it because, go ahead, what were you going to say?
I was going to say they're kind of all, mostly fun. There have been a couple I can think of where I was pretty crabby, but...
you mean episodes of this program?
Yeah. But mostly they're fun because we try to be a light for people. Like, we want to be a light, happy, carefree kind of warm and wonderful spot in your day. This is not the place to come for heavy, hard-hitting...
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
We've done heavy, hard-hitting news. If you're looking for the death toll from a flash flood, don't look here. We don't have it.
No.
We aren't talking about things like that.
I will say, though, since you mentioned that, my heart is with the people in and around Kerrville, Texas right now. I actually have a lot of friends who live in the area, and what a horrible tragedy that's happened there with that flooding.
It is terrible, and it does talk about how we need to be able to have good, clear communication in emergent situations.
Right.
But it's not a new thing.
Yeah.
Kerrville, Texas, and Kirk County are notoriously in the flood zone.
Yeah.
This isn't the first time that camp where tragically several children and camp counselors died. It's not the first time that's happened there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is sad, but that's not what we're here to talk about.
To those families, you know what
Absolutely.
I mean? Yeah.
And let me tell you something. A tragedy can be universal and it can be local, but if it's happening to you, it is universal, and there's nothing you can say about it.
It reminds me of, tragedies are horrible. That's why they're called tragedies.
That's right.
But hopefully some good can come out of it. I'm reminded of of Hurricane Katrina.
Sure.
And the horrible, awful disaster that was.
Right.
Excuse me. And but what came of it was protocol for handling those kind of disasters, and since then that protocol has been put into place in many cities and places, and that kind of disaster hasn't been repeated because of it.
Well, that size and scope hasn't been repeated. You're absolutely right. But again, this is not the forum for tragedy and
what happened?
sadness.
How did we get there? No. Hard left turn. Here we go. I'm turning the car.
This is where, if you've ever wondered, I wonder what it's like to have a conversation with David and Londa in their living room in the morning. That's exactly what this program is.
This is it. We often do a restaurant review Nobody asked us, but we do it anyway.
I have a buddy who often says to me, hey, I've got a restaurant that I'm interested in hearing your thoughts on, but I can't tell you about it because then it won't be the restaurant review nobody asked for.
I see. I see.
And we will have one of those during this program as well.
Well, I was going to say we went somewhere recently and I don't remember where, so I'm not stepping on your toes for the review because I don't know what you're going to review. But I remember that you said to the server, and you did a great job. You were really good. I mean, you were on top of it, and you were right there and everything. And I thought to myself, wouldn't have mattered. Wouldn't have mattered if you weren't.
Because I'd have still tipped very well.
Yes.
It's because I was a server, and I know what that's like.
I was a server too, and that's why I don't.
And here's the deal.
For the tip.
Well, she did. And let me tell you something. I'm going to stop talking about it right now because I want to talk about it in the restaurant review nobody asked for later in the program. And we're going to have some complaints about customer etiquette and all that as part of that review.
Oh, that's
But
exciting.
I don't want to get into it right now.
Oh, now I know what you're talking about. Yes, I'm very excited to get to that. Keep your...
Nope. No.
Okay, all right.
No.
Stay tuned.
Anyway. We've got a lot of things to talk about this morning, and you were telling me something this morning about something you wanted to cover. What was that? Bring everybody up to speed about what you wanted to cover.
Yeah. The 3 things I wish I would have known before I bought my first house.
Okay. The three things you wish you would have known before you bought your first house.
Yep. And really, it can apply to any time you buy a house.
Okay.
But especially that first one, because it's such a scary thing.
Right.
It really isn't, but it feels so scary, and you feel so... I mean, I remember
psychologically, it's pretty scary.
When I bought my first house, I thought, this is the biggest financial commitment I've ever made, and it felt like I was ever gonna make, and it was $80-some thousand, and the interest rate was 9-point-something%, and it felt like all the money in the whole wide world.
Sure.
And how could I possibly do that? And I remember being terrified. How did you feel when you were looking to buy your first house?
Well, as you know, I'm a super optimist. So I felt like it was the most exciting thing I'd ever done. I felt like you
were ready.
I can't go wrong. I'm tired of being a renter. I don't like living in an apartment complex where I can hear my neighbors. And let me tell you something. At that point in my life, I was living in a pretty darn nice apartment complex with...
You can live in the nicest apartment.
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
Still an apartment.
With no shared walls. I mean, it was a crazy complex. Yeah. The Mayfair Apartments in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Okay.
We drove by them once when we lived in Louisiana.
So you didn't feel scared or nervous at all?
Well, okay. I'm a negotiator, and I had negotiated some down payment money from my father-in-law.
Okay.
So I had $10,000 to use to be able to buy my first house. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have to worry about proving gift funds or anything like that.
Okay.
And I had a success team around me, a resource group of people.
Well, let's stop. I'm going to stop you right there.
Houses
I'm
going to
stop you right there
years.
Before you start. I just wanted to know how you felt.
I felt pretty excited.
Okay, and I felt scared. And I would say most of the people that we work with feel both of those things.
Yeah.
Pretty excited, also super scared.
Right.
And so these are the 3 things I wish I'd known before I bought my first house. Number 1, interest rate does not matter.
Well, that's true.
It really doesn't matter.
Right.
What the market's doing, like I just said, the interest rate was 9-point-something when I bought my first house. I remember that, and I didn't think anything of it.
And mine was 8.5, and I didn't care either.
And there you go.
What was important was, can I afford the payment? That's
Good
what was
point.
important.
Yep.
And you know what? The interest rate could have been 4,000% interest.
Yeah.
If I could afford the payment, I wouldn't have cared.
And I think that, we are today's buyers, today's market, they got really what happened that caused our interest rates to be so low there for a couple of years? They were like artificially low.
Absolutely.
It didn't make any sense, but I don't know why.
Well, because after we had the market crash in the early 2000s, right? The bubble burst, so to speak.
2008 to 10 or
7,
there.
8. Yep, right in there. The thing that happened to get the economy back on track was the federal government artificially kept rates down. They did it by buying mortgage-backed securities from Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac at a huge pace. And when they did that, it made interest rates go down because bonds, mortgage-backed securities or bonds, have a fixed rate of return.
Right.
So they can't be profitable. They can have a fixed rate of return. And that was
still what was causing it into 2020, 2021?
Absolutely, because as the market was improving, something else would happen. So they talked about quantitative easing over and over and over again. And that was, let's slow our purchases.
Gotcha.
Because we want the fair market economy to come back in. And every time something else happened in the economy, they decided, no, let's wait a little while. So we had interest rates that went from the mid 6s to the low 4s after the whole market crash. And they stuck around and through administration after administration.
Right.
And then COVID happened, and they got even lower.
COVID was crazy.
Because they wanted to spur the economy and keep people buying things. And if you buy things, the economy's healthy. Right. You're locked at home. Now you know how crappy your home is because you can't go anywhere else during the day. You're there 40 hours more a week. You know what? Interest rates are 2.75. Let's buy a house that we think is more fun.
Yep.
And what that did was it inflated home values. The deflated rates inflated home values. And at that moment, the Biden administration decided, okay, you know what? We're back on track. We can stop buying mortgage-backed securities. And at the same time, let's go ahead and sell all of our holdings of mortgage-backed securities. Interest rates literally doubled in 60 days.
It was crazy. But the truth of the matter is, it doesn't matter because you just need to get into the savings account you're going to sleep in.
Right.
And what I mean by that is your real estate values increase consistently. We have a consistent, especially where we live, we're very lucky here that we have a consistent tracking of appreciation, right, over the last 40 years that we have documented. We had that a little dip in the 90s, the early 90s, but a little dip in that 2007-8, right?
Right.
But nothing catastrophic. So ultimately, we have appreciation. Your real estate is going to appreciate. So I call it the savings account that you sleep in. And so interest rates don't matter. They're going to go up and down. They're going to do crazy things. Just get in. And if the interest rates get to a point and you're at a point where it all lines up to where it makes sense to refinance your house, then maybe you can do that. So,
well, and that's the thing. That's the thing people talk about, right? What is irresponsibly discussed as well is the whole statement, marry the house, date the rate. It's irresponsible to say that only because there's no guarantee that rates are going to go down. There's historical markers that show
they're good.
That's exactly
Markets
right.
do this.
That's
up,
exactly
down, up,
right.
down, all around.
So I don't like that saying as a lender over the last 20 years, because if I'd have been saying that in 2007,
right. Oopsie doodle.
People would be really mad at me right now.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Yep.
So what I think is more responsible is the interest rate market is cyclical. Mm-hmm. Don't wait for the perfect time, because the perfect time is never going to be there. I have a buddy who called me in 2008 and said, "Hey, David, when the market hits 4.25 on a 15-year fixed, I'm going to be ready to refinance." We did his refinance, and 3 months later, the 15-year fixed was at 2.75. and I feel horrible, but I shouldn't feel horrible because I took his direction.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And as a service provider, you do what you can for your clients when they have a need. And if you're trying to tell somebody, ooh, now's the time to move, and kind of hypnotize them into moving, that's a mistake. If people have a need, you need to be able to be there to help fulfill that need. And that's kind of what they do. So the first thing is interest rates don't matter. And the second thing is
your team does.
That's exactly right.
Your team does matter. Here's what I mean by that. The lender that you have working for you and the realtor that you have working for you matter. You talk about your perspective of why they matter, and then I'll share my perspective because we have a little different view on the world.
Well, I think they matter because if you know and trust and like the people you're working with, you can be confident that they are looking out for your needs. And I believe the information that I know is critical to you, do they know which program to use? Do they have good programs? I think if you don't, you should get out of the business. If you don't know your programs, go do something else. That's the way I think it should be. Closing
as
loans,
a lender, you're talking
yes,
about.
Closing loans on time as a lender should be a given. It just should be what you do.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
So, well, you know what? I really like that lender because he's got really great rates, but he never closes on time. That's not a good teammate, in my opinion, right? So, to me, pick someone you know, like, and trust. So, when you see somebody in the grocery store, you don't have to hide your face and look down at the ground and hope they don't see you. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that just goes back to doing what you say you're going to do, right?
Yeah.
And the reason I led into the team matters when I was talking moments ago is because I think you really should care most about your client's needs. And that may be why I have clients from 20 years ago who still are thrilled to see me when I walk into the grocery store.
Right.
You know, if you're working with someone maybe online who you're never going to meet in person, that person does not have the same vested interest in you,
right,
as someone who's in your community. I'm
Very
not saying
true.
everybody should use me as a lender. I don't think that's realistic. But everybody should choose a lender that they like, know, and trust.
Absolutely.
That's what I think. Now, as far as realtors go, if you're not picking someone who's a strong negotiator, who also can withstand some of the pressures of the deal, and they're creating these weird emotional roller coasters for their clients. If you're picking someone who does that, horrible. That's somebody you're not going to want to run into in the grocery store. So just as I say, pick a lender you like, know, and trust, pick a realtor you like, know, and trust.
And for me, I would drill down on the trust thing because we have different personalities. Different things are important to us. That's
Sure.
what makes the world go round. No two people are the same. For me personally, the trust piece is huge. And the way that it plays out for me is I want someone who is competent.
Okay.
And respectful. And those things are very, very, very important to me. Communication is also important to me. And here's my point about all this. Figure out what's important to you.
Okay.
Figure out what's important to you and communicate that to your team.
Sure.
Right? So I now know I don't like to, how do I want to say this? I like to have people on my success team who are competent.
Of course.
I do not have a lot of, if any, room for incompetence.
Okay.
If you're making stupid mistakes, if you're too busy to catch all the details, hire an assistant. Like
Sure.
You need to hire more people. Oh, well, that slipped through the cracks because we're just so busy. Hire more people. We're overstaffed by design here
Right.
in our office.
Right.
So things don't fall through. And things still occasionally fall through the cracks. And I can't figure out how. We have so many damn people looking at everything. Like nothing should, but sometimes it still does. So I would say for me, that is just a huge part of it, of building the trust,
yes.
right? And I am spoiled by having you primarily as a lender on a lot of my real estate transactions, because you are so smart and you seem to know. Like somebody will come to you and say, well, I want to do this program, whatever the program is. And,
right.
And you'll say, okay, tell me why you want to do that program. And they tell you, and you explain to them why it's actually not the best program for them. In fact, it could sometimes be a terrible program for them and be costing them way too much time and money and stress and whatever. And then you always seem to know what the right thing is, what the right fit is for them based on their goals. That's so, so important. So that would be something for me, like as far as like me working with a lender, you know, and then as the realtor. And then one thing I would tell people is if your realtor recommends a certain lender and vice versa, you should probably at least consider that recommendation, because they're doing that because they work together in sync.
Sure.
Probably.
Everybody should have a success team, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
if you're a savvy realtor, you already have relationships with people who help your business. And that's important in a realtor-lender relationship, right?
Yeah.
One thing I did when I got into the industry as a lender over 20 years ago was I'd been a sales manager. So what did I do that was different than other lenders? Because remember, knowing the programs, closing loans on time, that's a given. You should do that if you're in the industry. But my unique selling proposition was I can help coach you in sales techniques, because I had been a professional sales manager and understand sales, right? A few realtors didn't like that. I know one in particular.
Yeah, it doesn't help the client, though.
But it does help the client. It does. It all goes to making sure you have a success team that helps you be more efficient and serve more people efficiently, right?
Sure.
So my unique sales proposition as a lender then, 21 years ago, was I could help with sales techniques, right? Mm-hmm. And I had a realtor, and I'm not for everybody. I had a realtor say, I'll never use David Austin because he's too salesy.
Guess what we do?
Sales.
We sell homes. That's what we do.
And that realtor's been middling for 20 years.
Yeah. It is our sport. We are Olympians. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I look at this.
I like that. I don't look at it that way, but I love it that you do. That's awesome.
This is my sport. Challenge me. I'll win every time.
I like that.
I'm first across the finish line every time. The reason why is I listen to my client and I get them what they want. Somebody recently gave me a review, and she called me a feisty negotiator. And I thought, hell yeah. I loved that review. And it's true. And because I got that review, I was actually in the middle of a negotiation for a new client over something. Listen, it's a new construction. They wanted certain colors on the exterior.
Right.
We were told no, they couldn't have those colors. And I was about to lay down and say, well, okay, when I got that review, and I was reminded, no, that's not what I do.
That's right.
I'm a feisty negotiator, so I was like, I'm nice about it, but I went back again and again. I think it was a total of 4 times.
And we read the CC&Rs in that neighborhood.
We did.
And
there
we
was
saw
no actual
there's nothing
reason.
that says we can't do it.
So we did our research, we did our due diligence, and found out there's actually no legal or contractual reason why they can't have it. It's just a preference of the builder.
Right.
And so I kept going back and asking for further clarification, asking more questions, pointing out more facts, and then brought it all together by once again, we'd like you to go back to the builder and ask for the original colors that the clients want, whatever. And they finally came back, and the email I got back was, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, they say. and we got the colors approved. And that's not to say that, I'm not cooperative, because
sure.
I think I am. Probably.
Well, yeah, and none of your correspondences were, hey, what's the deal? Or accusatory.
No.
It was all, hey, listen, we've talked
Can you help me? A lot of it was that way. Can
Yep.
you help me understand this? Can you help me get, clarification? Because I see the builder's representative as the expert
right.
for the builder. They are.
And
I'm not. I'm just some dummy who's trying to get my client the alabaster white that they want.
Right.
And I didn't like the alabaster white. So it's like my opinion has nothing to do with
sure.
it. But they wanted it, and so I got it. Anyway, so that would be that number one, the interest rates don't matter.
They don't.
Number two.
Number
two, your team really does matter. And number three, there's never a perfect time.
That's exactly right. There is never a perfect time.
It's just like,
I'm going to wait till the interest rates go down before I buy. And 20 years later, you still haven't bought, but now the prices of houses are quadruple what they were.
We actually have someone in our database that is that
Yep.
exact thing, has been living in an apartment for 25 years waiting for a market crash.
Right. And a market crash, what is a market crash? It's just like when somebody says, well, interest rates are too high. Well, what does that mean to you?
Oh, that's a good question.
I ask people that. And when they say, what's the interest rate? How does that help you make a decision? I ask people. Well, I don't want my payment to be any more than $1,800. Oh, great. Well, then you can't spend more than $250,000 on a house unless you're going to put a lot of money down. Oh, really? That's what I get when I say that. Oh, really?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's very interesting to me that people hear what's happening in the news.
Yeah.
And think it impacts them directly. And sometimes, very infrequently, it does impact you directly. Most of the time, it's entertainment.
Yes.
It's not your life.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I would say to this point that there's never a perfect time. It's when you feel the nudge, that's the time. And let me expand on that a little bit. Anything in life, when you feel that nudge, that, gosh, is it time to, the answer is yes. The answer is yes. If you feel the nudge, it's time to pull the trigger. Because we, I don't know if guys do this, but I know as women, because I've talked with a lot of women about this, we explain away our intuition. We explain it away.
Okay, tell me what you mean by that.
Okay, so like we'll get a feeling like, I should do this, or I should do that, or I should call this person, or I should whatever. And then we talk ourselves out of it. We explain it away like, no, that would be crazy. I shouldn't bug them. And then we find out later they really needed us to call right then. That's just one example.
I gotcha.
So I would say that if you feel the nudge, is this the right time to look for a new job? Yes. If you feel if you're asking the question, yes is the answer. Yes, you're already answering it yourself because you're asking the question. Is this the moment to make a move on fill in the blank?
Right.
The answer is probably yes.
I gotcha.
Should we have kids right now or should we wait 3 years? Gosh, I don't know. Probably now. It's just like that. There's no perfect time to have kids. There's no perfect time to make a jump. There's no perfect time to make a move. There's no perfect time to buy a house.
And that goes back to having a team that's ready to help you with your needs at a moment's notice.
Right.
If you have needs, now's the time.
Yeah.
If you don't, then don't call me asking me to hypnotize you into believing now's the time to refinance your house. If you can't pay your credit card bills because you've got a super low interest rate, but you have very little cash, don't make me do some voodoo to convince you that you need to refinance to pay off your credit card bills. You know what I mean?
Right. Yes.
The service provider is there to provide the service when you need it.
So those are the 3 things I wish I had known before I bought my first house. 1, the interest rate really didn't matter. 2, my team really did matter. And 3, there's no perfect time. Now,
those are important
things.
I
want to show you something exciting.
Okay.
If you're watching the YouTube, you're going to see this. If you're not watching YouTube, you can just go to sherwoodaustin.com. I just wanted to share that we have done something very exciting on our website under the Meet Our Team tab. We've
added Ada Harpster, who is now a licensed real estate assistant. She has gotten her real estate test behind her. She's a licensed realtor, and she's our assistant and our social media manager,
creative
director. I mean, she's making us look great.
Yep. So there she is. Please give her some love. She's doing a really fun event later this month. That's a craft supply swap.
Which is something I would never, those words just don't go together in my brain, but it makes so much sense now that I know about it.
If you know somebody who's got a closet full of crap from their crafts and they need to get rid of it, reach out to us and I can give you some instructions. What we're doing is we're collecting all the supplies here at our office. I don't remember the dates. I think it's July 19th. Ada can probably slip it into this podcast, but we're collecting the supplies here at the office. We're going to organize it. We're going to get it all ready for you. And then there's on a certain date at a certain time, there's a swap. You're going to come. It's being held at the Richland Community Center, and you can come and you just take what you want.
If you've got some unused skeins of yarn,
yes,
you would be interested in this event.
Well,
if you've got brown felt from being a homeschool mom and making gingerbread men out of felt for Christmas time, you can bring that in. Somebody needs that.
Anybody who is a crafter at all, any kind of craftiness, always has that cabinet or drawer full of crap they're never going to use. And wouldn't they love to be able to swap it out for something they can use? So anyway, she's now on our website and part of our team. And we want to say welcome and congratulations. She's such a valuable part of our team.
She is. And yay, Ada. Yes. I almost said Yada, but that's not it.
So in the last couple minutes of our broadcast for today,
it's the restaurant
David
review
Austin.
Nobody asked for. Okay.
And go.
This weekend, over the past Labor Day weekend, or Independence Day weekend, rather, not Labor Day. I don't know why my brain just stopped working. Anyway, over the last weekend, the kids were in town. So Caitlin, who is my oldest, went out and played disc golf with me at 9 a.m. on Sunday, and then we went to breakfast at Hopjack's.
We went to lunch. We didn't go to breakfast.
It was brunchy time. It was like 11.
It was noon when we got there.
Was it really? Okay, anyway, it was early in my head.
If it had been 11, I would have been able to get breakfast.
Because they do serve breakfast there. We found out while we were there. We didn't know.
All right.
Okay, so here's my deal.
Okay.
When I go to a family-style restaurant that also has a bar, I like to sit in the bar, and here's why. As someone with a grand total of 9 children, 2 from my first marriage and the other 7 from this marriage, I've been around a lot of kids. Mm-hmm. And now when I go out, I want to hang out and not have to deal with child care. But Caitlin got there before us. She sat in the regular side of the regular restaurant side of Hopjack's on Queensgate, right?
Yeah.
Here's my beef. There was a guy there clearly with his grandchild, and I say that because he looked my age. And the kid was a little kid. Was it the dad? I don't know.
Yeah.
Because
anyway,
I wasn't part of that party on purpose.
There was a person with a child.
He sat on the side of the booth that adjoined other booths. Meanwhile, he could have sat on the other side where no one would have been behind him at all ever for any reason. I don't know why he chose that, but he did. So his kid or grandkid, the jury's still out, was bouncing around in that seat and tapping the seat and saying hello and looking 2 inches from me in my eye. And he did a good job of trying to maintain that child, trying to corral. He tried. I could hear him saying things like, okay, now let's sit on our butts. Let's sit on our butts. While the kid was jumping up and down like he was on a trampoline. That drives me nuts. Okay. But it did not mar my experience. I, took a few deep breaths. I looked across the table at my baby, who never not once stood in a booth in a restaurant, even though she grew up at Outback in Kennewick. Not standing up in booths and not jumping around in her seat, but that's neither here nor there.
I got some things to say, so
okay,
carry on.
So I got the same meal I always get. I like that chicken club wrap with fries and a little ranch, and that was lovely. Our server was a delight. And I think she might have been a theater kid in high school because she was ready to go with a tight 3 minutes of stand-up when it was appropriate to do.
Okay.
So I thought her performance was wonderful. I gave a spectacular tip because I thought she did a great job, and I told her so. And you say, and the food was fine. The food was good. It was exactly what I was looking for. So, long story short, lovely food, lovely presentation. Put your grandkid on the other side of the booth, fella. I mean, come on.
It was his kid.
Okay, fine.
And I do know that. And you know me. I avoid controversy.
I didn't say a word.
For the most part,
right.
I avoid controversy.
Yes.
I don't like to share super strong opinion. If I share a really strong opinion, I've got some deep, deep convictions about that particular thing.
Right.
Because mostly I try to be pretty loosey-goosey. I'm trying to, I try to see the world from everybody's perspective. And so if I put my foot down about something, it means something.
Okay.
Okay. And I'm about to put my foot down.
I'm a little scared right now, and I don't know if I should be.
I raised 7 kids.
Yes.
And when we went out to eat, everybody in the restaurant, when we walked in the restaurant, I'm sure gave a collective sigh.
Right.
Oh, God, please don't sit next to me.
Right.
And it did not take long for people to figure out my children were very well behaved. They did not act up in restaurants. They did not jump around in the booth.
Right.
They did not. And go ahead and send your emails, because if you send your emails or you send your text messages to me complaining about this, here's what I'm going to do. I used to coach families professionally. I can help you teach your kid to behave appropriately. And I will tell you this as well. It's never the kid. It's always you. It's the parent. It's the parent.
Gotcha.
You're not parenting. You're not parenting, and that's why your kids are acting up. And here's the problem that most people have. You wait to parent your kid till you're in public.
Right.
If you're not practicing at every meal at home, you can't expect the kid to behave appropriately in public.
I see what you're saying.
It's so unfair.
Yes.
It's so unfair to expect them to sit still and be quiet or whatever the expectation is, right? If you haven't practiced it at home,
I gotcha.
Do you think you are that you can just throw your kid out into a public situation and expect them to know how to act right? If you haven't taught them,
if you let your kid bounce around in their seat at dinner at home, they're going to bounce around in their seat at dinner in a restaurant.
Unless you are creating an atmosphere at home where we sit at a table, we practice manners, we sit in the seat, we do the things on the regular. It's just our routine when we eat. This is how we eat at home. We sit, we practice our manners, we talk. It's called training.
I gotcha. I like it.
Unless you do that, don't take your kids out. Don't take them out.
You know what? Fair.
Get takeout and take it home.
And my kids didn't bounce around at restaurants because every night at dinner we sat down together at the table and we had a conversation while we ate our meal.
And,
because that was a non-negotiable in my childhood upbringing, so it was a non-negotiable in their upbringing.
And I had an incredible advantage of having my kids home full time most of the time because I homeschooled my kids. So we had 3 big full meals a day together.
Right.
And so there was a lot of opportunity to practice.
I
right?
gotcha.
And so, but if you only had 1 meal a day together, you teach them. What in the hell do you think is your job as a parent except to teach them how to live?
Right. That's right.
So I would love to complain about the kid jumping around the booth, but really I can't. I look at that and I see a parent who's not teaching and training their kid at home.
I gotcha.
And the asking instead of the telling drives me up a
Let's sit on our butt.
wall.
Let's sit on our butt.
No, he kept asking him, can we sit down? Can we sit down? Can we do this? Can we do that? Sit down.
Ooh. Okay now.
Sit down.
Strong consonants.
Let me tell you.
It shocks them.
When I was a young parent, I had a very small group of friends, and we all did this parenting thing together.
Sure.
You know, we were like in the trenches together. And I remember one of them talking about the term that they used was cultivate a voice of authority.
Oh, okay.
And I still use it.
You do, and it scares me frequently.
Our brand new team member the other day started getting a little mouthy with me in the office, and I used it. And my kids, when I said to them, sit down.
Sat down.
They fucking sat down.
Yeah. Well, and
here's the other thing.
And if you have animals, you do it.
When I was out at restaurants with my kids, I was engaged with my kids. I'm engaging them. We played games.
Yep.
We did quiet little things at the table. And by the way, while we were there was a big group that came in. All the adults sat on one side of the table, like 5 of them, and then put all 5 of the little kids on the other side of the table. Are you stupid? Are you stupid? It's adult kid, adult kid, adult kid, adult kid, adult kid, unless you want to be driving yourself and everyone else crazy. All right, that's all I have to say.
Well, and here's another thing, and why your kids are so well behaved and why my kids are so well behaved. There was never a time when there was child speak in my home. No. We talked to the kids like they were equal adults in our family. That's not to say we let them make decisions for us. We don't. The kids didn't get to rule the house, but we included them in our conversations and didn't dumb those conversations down. And guess what? Those kids are all well practiced at open communication.
Yeah.
Benjamin is in a new position, and everybody in there is shocked that he can carry on a conversation with the president of the company just like he's having a conversation with a receptionist. And it's because we didn't segregate the children from the adults. We included them and wove them into the conversation.
Right. That's how you learn to be a part of. That's how you learn. You learn about life by being a part of life.
And I think it just happened for me because that's how I grew up.
Yeah.
The kids were never somewhere else.
My kids were sometimes somewhere else. They, go to the basement and play. This is playtime, but it wasn't.
When my mom would have an author over to the house on Sunday morning and they'd go out on the back patio and smoke cigarettes and talk about their latest poetry, I sat there with them and sucked it all in. And had questions,
including the secondhand smoke,
and was literally and was very interested and was not excluded. That's the thing. I think people are too quick to exclude their children rather than include them. And yes, of course, they jump around on the seat because they want your attention.
Yeah, and I
don't know how we got onto this conversation.
I don't either, but it's exciting. and is it a lot of work? Yes, it's a lot of work. That's why it was my full-time job. Do you need to have a success team in raising kids just like you do in everything else? Yes, you do. But I'm going to tell you right now, if your kid's jumping around and acting inappropriately in public, it's because you just need to do more training at home with them. When you're not in public, it's okay. It's going to be all right.
And tip.
Just keep those standards at home and in public.
Pro tip, if you do let your kid trampoline in a booth at a restaurant, make sure that kid's not in the booth seat right behind me. You know what I mean? Put that kid on the other side so it's only inconvenient for you, not for the other people too.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say about that. Okay. Yeah. I would give Hop Jacks a 9 out of 10 at that experience for what they could control.
Sure.
There you have it, and there it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
This has been another edition of The Session with Londa and David. For the prettiest girl in the world, Londa Joanne Sherwood Austin, I'm David Austin. We'll see you next week.